All right, so here we are on the right hand side of the printer. This is the flushing box. This over here is the capping station. And then up here is the wiper blade. I will show you how to replace them. They're pretty cheap. I will say the Chinese parts are not exactly the same. They're pretty close, but Epson doesn't support these anymore. You can't get Epson parts for these. So the best resource I found is s.international. Let's start with the flushing box. And I will say that for all of these, it's much easier if you just remove the whole thing. But I will wait to show you that later. You can actually buy this whole cleaning station assembly and just bolt a new one in, but it's cheaper to either first just clean or replace the parts individually. And then I will just note that there's a clear strip right up here where my screwdriver is that is very important not to get any ink on that. So as you're working in here, be mindful of that clear strip and try not to touch it, try not to get ink on it. So for the flushing box, this is like the spit tank of the printer, kinda. It's just got two screws, top and bottom, and then it slides right out. It's connected to this hose, which I will show you in the back where that goes. So it's a little hard to see amidst all this stuff here, but that big hose, see if I can move the focus there. That big hose there goes into the waste, the top of the waste tank. So when you get your new flushing box, it'll just be the box. It won't come with this hose. So you need to remove the hose and put it on the new one. And I'm going to show you a trick for that. Useful is to get like a blunt tipped syringe and slide it carefully underneath the two layers, but you don't want to like scratch anything, just to get like air in there to help it slide off, because sometimes it gets gummed with ink. And if you did poke a hole, this is pretty easy to get at the hardware store. They just cut it to length. There it goes. Pops right off. Once you've got your new flushing box on, you just feed the hose back the way it came. So let's see if I can get you a better view. You basically feed it back into the top of the maintenance tank, just like that. And then once it's in, you just reconnect the two screws. All right, moving on to the capping station right here. This is where the print head sits when it's parked to keep it from drying out. And above it is the wiper blade. So we'll do the capping station. This is a finicky little bugger. Very hard to describe. You kind of have to get a feel for it, but I will do my best with the camera here. So you basically need to push it in, and then here on the right there's a series of tabs, and it needs to go, you need to sort of relieve those tabs. So you push it down on the right, like this, and then slide it to the left. And you gotta kind of wiggle it, jiggle it, to get those tabs out from underneath. And this one is an aftermarket one, which it doesn't go as smoothly as the OEM. And just be patient with it. Come on. There it comes. You see, when I'll take it out, it's got this spring in the back. So there you can see there's the spring, and it's connected to 3 hoses. One of them has already come unattached. It's back here. And then there's 2 more. So there's 1. And here's a 3rd one here. So there's the spring. And the 3 hoses just pull right off. And there we go. So you can see here, let's get the focus with those tabs, how they're designed. They kind of need to go underneath these, which, see if I can get you closer. Underneath these guys. So they have to go under and then up. So when you're taking it apart, you're pushing down on the right side and the left side kind of lifts as you try to pull it out. And then when you're putting it back in, it's the opposite. You kind of leave the left lifted and tilted in, and then it pops up underneath of those 2 tabs right there. And then these hoses right here are connected to the ink pump. So when you're doing cleaning cycles, it sucks ink or cleaning solution through these hoses and spits them into the waste tank. So one of the things I discovered is if you are having an issue where you're able to print, but ink is not flowing through these lines in the back, when you're doing cleaning cycles, the cause might be that these are plugged. So I'll show you on the back. Those connect through the pump to these lines right here. And those go down and into the waste tank right here. So if you look, while you're doing a cleaning cycle and you don't see ink moving through those lines, there's a problem. And the problem is most likely that these little hoses are plugged. What you want to do is fill a syringe like this with Piezo flush, and then with the syringe tip you can insert it into those hoses, just like that, and then flush the solution in, and I let it sit. Put some solution in, let it sit, and then maybe like an hour later flush some more through, and hopefully that whatever crud is built up in there will move through. Don't flush the top left line, which connects here, because it doesn't really go anywhere. So it's the one on the top left. It's only the bottom left and the bottom right 2 hoses that connect to the ink pump. Those are the ones you want to flush. If you want to remove this whole cleaning station with the capping station and the wiper blade and everything, there's just a few screws. So I'm going to remove these 2. Now we're going to remove this one. And this one. Okay, and that should loosen this whole assembly. Now there's a couple electrical connections and a couple hoses you have to remove, so let me show you those. On the side here, you have to pull off that little connection here, and then you have to disconnect this flat hose here, and that connects over here. So you just pull that out, and then you also have to take out these tubes here. They connect to the waste tank. You got to remove those, and then the whole thing is free, and you can replace it with a new one. And putting it back in is the same in reverse. You just line it up. It's got a little arrow here that lines up with this arrow here, and you're good to go. Here's the capping station unit fully removed, and as you can see, it's so much easier to access the wiper blade and the capping station. So if you do have to replace those parts, I'd almost say it's easier to just take this off and then reinstall it once you've replaced them, because you can do a much better job. So while I've got this off, I figured I would show you how to put the new wiper blade in. So if you can see here, on the blade, it has this lip that comes up. You want to face that towards the capping station. And you're just going to slide it in. This is a new blade. They come in a pack of, I don't know, 10 or 20. You just slide it in the slot. Make sure it's lined up with the tabs. Just work it in. You can just jiggle it gently back and forth, slide it in. Just gently pushing it in with my flat blade. I think this would be easier with the capping station off. And there it goes. It's snapped onto the tabs. So let me give you a close view. So here you can see a better view. See how it's clicked onto those tabs, and the blade is nice and straight. With this cleaning station off, I think it's the best way for me to show you how to remove and reinstall this capping station. So it's spring-loaded, and you have to get these tabs to release on the right hand side. So you push down on the right, lift on the left, and try to jiggle it, slide it to the left. And it takes a little bit of a fussing to get it to go, but it does pop out. There it comes. Just pop it out, detach the hoses, and off it comes. So let me show you on the back where those three hoses attach. One of them came off here. So this hose on the bottom left attaches to the pump on the right hand side, right in here. And then this short little hose attaches to the pump on the left hand side, right like that. You can see that. And then that hose pokes through the bottom right. The upper hose that comes through on the top left, up here, attaches up here. It loops around the back and goes out that hole. So now all three hoses are here. And to reattach, you have to first connect the hoses. I use needle nose pliers. If you're worried about damaging the hoses, you could wrap the tip of the pliers in some blue painter's tape to kind of pad it. But I'm not going to worry about that. First I'm going to do the bottom right. Then the bottom left. Then the top left. Hoses are all in. Insert the spring into the groove. There's a groove on both parts. So now we've got it spring loaded, and we just have to reconnect it. There's a tab on the left that needs to go underneath this piece right here, and then the tabs on the right that need to go underneath these pieces right here. So you tilt it to the right, make sure this left tab slides under where it needs to go, and push it in. There it goes. It will take you a few times. Sometimes that can be a little bit tricky until you figure it out, but just look at how it's designed and the way that the tabs are oriented and you'll figure it out no problem.